Thank you all for tuning in. It's great to have the entire English faculty here. I want to talk to you about ENGL 3002 Critical Debates. As we all know, this is not only a third year semester 2 undergraduate English and Theatre Studies subject, but it is the compulsory capstone subject for those completing an English major here at Melbourne Uni. Specifically, I want to propose altering the assessment. As it stands, we have two assessments throughout the semester. The first, a philosophy-style essay without reference to literature, and the second, a critical reading of literature that the students haven't studied. As you know, students often struggle with these assessments, and with the subject in general, due to its difference in content from the rest of the major. We've also not been succeeding when it comes to creating a capstone cohort experience. So I propose a new assessment guided by the NSSE's 2008 Evaluation of High Impact Learnings, an assessment which involves common intellectual experience, learning communities, reflecting and integrating learning, and interacting with faculty and peers about substantive matters. Since this is a capstone experience, this is often our final opportunity to ensure the students meet the standards required of undergraduate level AQF7. So we're also working towards the level 7 AQF requirements that the students are capable of providing specialist advice and functions, and that they are able to transmit knowledge, skills, and ideas to others. Both of these requirements suggest that we must ensure that the students are capable of offering perspectives on literature to someone other than their teacher. Here is the assessment description written for students. Write a 500-word blog post to be publicly shared on the LMS about your favourite piece of literature, fiction, poem, or play. Reflect on why you like it and tell us why you think it has literary value. Use a short close reading of a passage to illustrate your point. This is an unmarked hurdle requirement due at the end of week 2. So, because we assessors can't be expected to know the works they discuss, this assessment will be hurdle only, unmarked, but we will give feedback. I was also hoping we could each submit our own blog entries to kickstart the conversation and model the task for the students. This assessment is grounded in social constructionist models of knowledge acquisition, such as Brooks and Brooks' directive, that in the constructivist approach, we look not for what students can repeat, but for what they can generate, demonstrate, and exhibit. It is also informed by Batts and Elmendorf's idea of social pedagogies, in which students' knowledge of a subject is deepened when they must present it to an audience other than the teacher, in this case, to persuade each other. And why online? I think we can use the informal and discursive nature of discussion boards to work to the students' advantage. Batts and Anon, in their summary of the work of the Visible Knowledge Project, have demonstrated the effectiveness of such forums to contribute to student learning where the activity is authentic, conversation is allowed to flourish, and the form resembles that of expert practice. And, as Cooper himself suggests, the use of internally persuasive discourse between students online works against the hegemony of the teacher's authority, thus encouraging in students the openness to different perspectives and the critical outlook that this subject, and indeed this major, are supposed to produce. We also have a useful example to follow here. Schacht et al.'s work for the Visible Knowledge Project has demonstrated that the use of reflective digital forums can significantly aid students' understanding of English as a discipline. I see the benefits of this assessment as sixfold. Firstly, we get to know the students and what engages them in literary terms. This adheres with Brooks and Brooks' first principle of constructive alignment, that teachers seek and value their students' point of view. It will also allow us to guide the students in productive directions with the theory we are introducing, highlighting affinities and tensions between their views and those of the theorists. Secondly, we get a sense of their ability to write close analysis and their ability to develop a persuasive argument, which is one of the generic skill outcomes in this subject. This allows us to give the students formative feedback very early in the semester and tailor our teaching to address areas where extra help is needed. As Bender argues, citing the National Research Council study of 2001, using diverse and frequent formative assessment is likely to lead to better learning than monolithic assessments, which try to cover all bases at once. This assessment also allows us to address Melbourne Uni Subject Policy 4.21, which requires capstone subjects to offer disciplinary coherence and consolidation of skills. As it stands, this subject contains no literary analysis or close reading until after the semester is finished in the final assessment. Despite these being the fundamental skills of our discipline and the one constant throughout all other subjects in the degree, we need to make this subject cohere more to the major. Thirdly, and as per Brooks and Brooks' directive that social constructivist learning introduced big ideas early for the students to grapple with, this assessment will get them thinking about their own standards of literary value right from week 2, kickstarting the process of reflection that this subject is meant to provoke. As Bass and Anon argue, disciplinary knowledge proceeds from self-knowledge and experience, a position echoed by Bender, who sees such engagement as a vital contribution to meaningful learning. By foregrounding their perspective at the beginning of the semester, we encourage the students to actively reflect on and problematize their subjectivities through the critical encounters that are to follow. The posts will also serve as a useful snapshot of earlier thinking, allowing the students to contrast their understanding at the end of semester with that at the beginning, which should spur them to actively reflect on what they've learned. I think Brooks and Brooks sum it up perfectly when they say that relevance emerges from the learner. By bringing in and making pertinent the student's pre-existing knowledge and passion for literature, and engaging with it substantively through the perspective of the subject, we will lend relevance and interest to the content that is to follow. This should set up strong foundations to satisfy ILO, reflect critically on the analytical skills and methods developed over the course of the major. Fourthly, we are hoping to create a community of learning on the LMS. This should help facilitate a cohort experience that has been identified in the Student Life White Paper as one of the features lacking in the capstone experience at our institution currently. It's also worth remembering that we are required by policy to offer cohort coherence in this capstone subject, as per 4.21a. The students will instantly have opportunities to connect with each other through the quality they all, presumably, share, the love of literature, and to make connections with students outside their own tutorial groups. As Bender argues, citing Wegerif's study, the degree of learning in a course depends on whether there is a feeling of belonging to a community of practice. But engaging in a community of practice requires us to speak up about our own thoughts and beliefs, which can be hard for students, particularly in tutorials. Patrick found that the blog format softens students' resistance to writing in first person, contributing to confidence in speaking about their own views. And this is essential if we are to meet the ILO, that students act as informed and critically discriminating participants within the community of scholars. This assessment will help foster such a community and begin a conversation between students about literature, encouraging them to be more informed about different perspectives and more critically discriminating, particularly where their own tastes are concerned. Fifthly, we are preparing them for further study in which they are required to be self-directed. If they are to be literary critics, they need to make decisions for themselves about where they want to direct their attention. There will be no professors telling them what to write an English honours thesis about. The students need to start seeing themselves as emerging literary critics, rather than just English majors, before they can make informed decisions about how and if to continue their academic career in English. This satisfies the ILO's work with independence, self-reflection and creativity, and apply an independent approach to knowledge. It should also help promote the autonomy and self-directed learning that is one of the AQF's requirements for graduates at this level. Lastly, it satisfies the ILO that the students must write persuasively and communicate effectively in a variety of oral and written formats, not just research essays. So, to sum up, there are multiple potential benefits of this assessment, all intertwined. Greater student engagement, more meaningful learning, and the development of a community, to name the key focuses. We are also ensuring that our assessment is more closely aligned to our ILOs. But to leave you with a question, one which also proved difficult for Schacht et al. In their relevant experiment in online English literature forums, if one of the potential benefits of the assessment is peer-to-peer engagement, how do we get the students to want to read and respond to each other's posts, without forcing them to in a way that undermines genuine interest and engagement? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for your time.